Hi everybody, Chief Andrew Smith, Green Bay Police Department. Here's your update for Tuesday, April 21st. Here in the state of Wisconsin, we have 4,620 individuals have tested positive for the coronavirus. As of right now, we have 242 deaths in Wisconsin. In Brown County, we've seen a big spike, a big increase in our numbers. Right now we're at 314. That's 314 in Brown County. Still only one death in Brown County, but our numbers have spiked. And if you've been paying attention to the newspaper, they say that we have an explosion of cases. This is today's paper. Those numbers are still a little bit low. It's 314 right now. What's causing that? Well, if you've been paying attention to the media, we've seen a spike in some of our businesses around here, specifically some of the big meatpacking plants that we have. We're on top of it. The county health department is on top of it. The Federal Center for Disease Control is on top of it. They're out here now. They're doing extensive testing. They're doing a bunch of mitigation with the administration at these different plants to try and make sure we can mitigate these things. They're educating the workers that are there and providing them with more personal protective equipment. So we're hoping that all those things together will mitigate it. But we are not out of the weeds by any stretch here in Wisconsin, and especially in Brown County. We are one of the fastest growing places in Wisconsin for positive coronavirus cases. So we got to continue to do what we've been doing. A couple of things that you've seen. If you checked our website, we put out a warrant for an individual named Manuel Mendoza. He's the shooter on that incident that occurred over on Western Avenue back on April 7th. He ended up shooting a young man in the back. That man was in the hospital still. He will survive, but Mr. Mendoza is the one who's been identified as the shooter. Our detective did some great work. If you check the rest of our website, it'll give you more information on him and a photo of Mr. Mendoza. As I mentioned in the COVID update, the CDC has been out here testing. We're doing a lot of different things for mitigating. On our department, we did have a new case where an officer was significantly exposed. Happened this afternoon. A couple of our officers were helping an elderly woman who we got a welfare check. She was down on the floor, had been in her apartment on the floor maybe for a day. Our officers went there, checked on her, and as they were assisting her, one of the officers' masks got torn, and he did get exposed to this individual who turned out to be COVID positive. So we do have one officer that we just put off on. He'll be on quarantine for a while. We'll work with the health department, make sure he gets the proper testing, and get him back just as quick as we can. I've been getting a lot of questions on Facebook, and a lot of people have been calling and sending me emails about, hey, is this governor's order, is this constitutional? Are you going to enforce it? I know there's some other chiefs and sheriffs across the state that decided that they believe it's unconstitutional and they will not enforce it. A couple things. I took an oath when I came to the state of Wisconsin to become chief here that I would be loyal to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin. And I intend to honor that oath every day that I work. And it's really important for me that my officers also honor that oath because they all took that same oath. Who do I work for? That's another question they keep asking me. Do you work for the mayor? Do you work for the city council? I work for the people of the city of Green Bay. I work for all of you. You're my boss, and so it's my job to do everything I can to keep Green Bay safe. I answer, according to the Constitution, the statutes of Wisconsin, to the Police and Fire Commission. They're the ones that oversee the police department. I work hand in hand with the mayor and the mayor's office, hand in hand with the alderpersons, but I answer to the Police and Fire Commission, just for some clarity, some questions that people have had. Now, upholding the Constitution is really important to me, and following the orders of the Constitution, following what the Constitution dictates for me to do, it's very important for me. If there's a question as to whether something constitutional or not, it's really not up to Andrew Smith to decide that, unless it's flagrant or blatantly obvious. It's up to the courts to decide that. So, is the governor's stay-at-home order constitutional? I believe it is. I believe we're being very reasonable about it here in Wisconsin, especially here in Green Bay. But if there's a challenge to that, the courts and the judiciary will decide whether that is constitutional or not. So we look to the courts to decide whether something's constitutional. I generally don't make those decisions myself unless it's so blatant that it's obvious that it's something that's unconstitutional. Then of course I wouldn't, nor would our officers enforce it. So just so you know, this is a health emergency. This is a public health emergency. It's really not a law enforcement emergency, and the Department of Health Services gets to make the call for the statute in Wisconsin as to whether we have a quarantine and what kind of shutdowns we do to keep people safe. For now, it's important here in Green Bay that we are getting voluntary compliance. We just did a check. We had 178 complaints of people violating the governor's special order. We investigated those, and by my count, we've had 2 times we've had to refer charges to the district attorney's office. Out of all the complaints that we've had, most of the time, in fact almost all the time, people are voluntarily complying, or once we educate them on what the rules are, they're complying with it. So it's important now, especially important here in Green Bay, as we're seeing this big rise in our numbers of COVID positive cases in Brown County. Now is the important time not to let up, not to violate those rules, to continue to use the good hand washing and the good personal protection and the space practices. Now's the time to protect your family and your community. Even if you're a young person and your chances of getting COVID and your chances of getting really sick from COVID are low, think about your grandparents, think about your elderly neighbors, think about the rest of the people in this community. We're all in this together. If we all continue to follow the rules, if we all continue to self-isolate as much as possible, we'll be through this quicker and there'll be fewer fatalities, and that's the name of the game. We're all part of a big team here. We're all working together to keep everybody safe. So let's all do our part. Let's keep it going. Remember, history is going to judge us on how we handled this, and I think you're doing a great job here in Green Bay. I couldn't be proud of the work of our officers and the people here in Green Bay of doing voluntary compliance. So thanks for listening. Sorry about the extra time. We got this, Green Bay.